All right, let me walk you through the solution for this exercise. So let's start with the controller, and in here, so you can see that I have a method called delete customer, where we have the path variable in here, and then we accept the customer update request from the request body, and we call customer service.update customer. Now let's look into this customer update request. So here we want to update name, email, and age. So, this can change depending on your needs, but I just decided to update all of the fields that we currently have for a customer. Then within the customer service, so here we have a bunch of logic, which I'm going to come back to it in a second, but let me first show you the DAO. So customer DAO. So here we have update customer. So here this takes the customer and I've called it update. Then if I go to this implementation here, so customer JPA data access service, all this does is just call save. So we get the customer and then we save in here. Now there's no an update. So here you might be expecting say update. No. So if you want to update the customer, you basically use the setters and then you can save the customer back in and it will take care of the update for you. The same with, if I go back here and if we look at the list data access service, so here the update is the same thing on the list in here. So we're basically just adding the customer back. So let's look into the service now. So the service is where all the meat really is. So if you look at the implementation here, what I've done is, so here, let me just put this on a new line. So we already have a get customer method that basically gives me the customer or throws an exception. So we are sorted on that front. Now here I do have a Boolean, say changes. And what I'm going to do next is check each field. So if the name is not null and the name has changed, i.e. if the name that is currently stored in the database is different from the name that is being set by the client, then we basically update the name. And this shouldn't be here, my bad. Then we update the name, right? So we set the name and then we say, right, so now we have some changes and you'll see this in a second. Then we do the same thing for age. So age is not equal to null and it has changed. Then we're going to set the age. And here we also say changes equals to true in case that this condition is false. Then we do the same for email. So for email, we say, right, so is the email not null and is different from what the client has set? Then inside, we're going to make sure that the email is not taken. And we could actually do some refactoring, but not for now, because this method here is the same as this one in here. This one here, right? So they are both the exact same thing. Now, if basically it's taken, throw an exception. If not, we're going to set the email and then say changes equals to true, because maybe these two if statements will evaluate to false. So here we have to catch this Boolean as well and set it to true if the case that we manage to set the email. Then what we do is we say if there are no changes, then we throw a request validation exception. And this is a custom class that I've just created. Request validation exception extends runtime. You've seen this, and the response status code is a bad request in here, right? So it's a bad request from the client since they want to update data that hasn't really been changed. That's why we throw this exception. Then if basically there are changes, then we just invoke customer DAO, update customer, and we pass the customer with the changes. So here we would have seen all these set emails and whatnot. Cool. So this is pretty much it. And again, like the only reason why we are using all these setters in here, so set email and whatnot, is because of JPA. So otherwise we wouldn't do things this way. So we would just use immutability. But yeah, this is JPA in action. And as you can see, it's not that difficult. And this pretty much concludes our CRUD API. If you have any questions, drop me a message. Otherwise, catch me on the next one.